When a woman tells you her problems, it is not always an invitation for advice. It's an invitation for understanding. It is a moment where she is choosing vulnerability over silence, trust over pride, and emotional openness over self-protection. In that instant, she isn't looking for you to fix her world. She is asking you to step into it. Many men misunderstand this aspect of female psychology. They hear a problem and immediately want to solve it, thinking that solutions will make her feel better. But for a woman, being heard is the solution. When she shares her concerns, frustrations, or emotional struggles, she is seeking connection, not correction. What she truly desires in that moment is presence, your calm attention, your empathy, and your patience. A woman's emotional expression is deeply tied to her sense of safety. When she feels emotionally safe, she can unfold her inner world. But if she feels judged, dismissed, or ignored, she retreats. Emotional safety isn't created by grand gestures. It is built in small, consistent moments where you listen without interrupting, comfort without controlling, and understand without assuming. Psychologically, women are more inclined toward relational communication. Their brains are wired to process emotions through language. When she speaks about what troubles her, she's not only trying to make sense of her feelings, she's also creating a bond. In her mind, sharing is a form of connection. The person who listens becomes part of her inner circle. That is why when you listen with empathy, you are not just offering emotional support, you are deepening intimacy. Listening, therefore, becomes a language of love. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to be emotionally available. When a woman feels truly heard, her nervous system relaxes. Her trust deepens and her heart opens. You become a safe space where she doesn't have to wear a mask. That sense of emotional freedom is what makes her feel valued and cherished. It's important to remember that emotional sharing is not a weakness, it's a sign of trust. Women don't tell their problems to just anyone. When she confides in you, she's saying, I feel safe enough to be seen. That's a rare level of trust. Breaking that trust by minimizing her feelings or making her feel foolish can create emotional distance. But when you honor her vulnerability, you affirm her emotional intelligence and build a connection that is both strong and sincere. Another key point in female psychology is emotional reciprocity. Just as she opens up, she also wants to know you can do the same. Emotional transparency is a two-way process. If you remain closed off, she may eventually stop sharing, sensing imbalance. So learn to meet her openness with your own authenticity. When she expresses pain, don't try to one-up it or silence it. Hold space for it. When she expresses confusion, don't dismiss it. Acknowledge it. Emotional maturity means knowing when to speak and when to simply listen. Women by nature are intuitive. They can sense when your attention is divided or when your responses are mechanical. They don't need grand emotional displays. They need genuine presence. Eye contact, a gentle nod, or even silence can speak volumes when delivered with sincerity. Emotional understanding doesn't come from agreeing with everything she says. It comes from validating what she feels. When a woman tells you her problems, it is not a random act of conversation. It is an act of emotional trust. In that moment, she is opening a door into her inner world, a space that very few people are invited into. Female psychology teaches us that emotional expression is not simply a means of communication, it is a form of connection. When a woman shares her struggles, her worries, or her pain, she is not necessarily asking for you to fix anything. She is asking for you to listen, to understand, and to be present. This is where most people misunderstand women. Many respond with logic when what she truly desires is empathy. Many try to solve her pain when what she needs is simply someone who will stand with her in it. Understanding this difference can completely transform the way you relate to women. From a psychological perspective, women are more relationally oriented. Their emotional world is often processed through dialogue, through the act of verbalizing what they feel. When she speaks, she's not just describing events, she's processing emotions, trying to find meaning and balance within them. Listening to her without interruption allows her to unfold those emotions naturally. Every word she speaks carries a feeling behind it, and when you listen attentively, she senses emotional safety. That safety is what allows her to open even more, because women open emotionally when they feel secure. This is not about agreeing with her or having all the answers. It's about creating an emotional environment where she feels valued, heard, and respected. When a woman feels unheard, her emotional energy turns inward. She starts to question her worth, doubts her emotions, and becomes guarded. But when she feels understood, her emotional confidence returns. The psychology behind this is deeply rooted in human bonding. Understanding equals connection, and connection equals trust. You become her emotional mirror, the person she can be her true self around. This does not mean you must carry her pain or fix every detail of her life. It means you learn the art of emotional presence, where your attention, tone, and energy communicate. I'm here, and I care. That simple act holds far more power than 1,000 solutions. Emotional connection is not built through talking. It's built through listening. A woman wants to feel that when she speaks, she is not being analyzed, corrected, or judged. When you listen without an agenda, she feels emotionally seen. That sense of being seen is one of the deepest needs in female psychology. Women crave emotional acknowledgement. They don't need perfection in a partner or a friend. They need consistency, compassion, and understanding. If she tells you about a problem at work, she doesn't necessarily want you to give her a strategy. She wants you to say, "That sounds really hard. I understand why you feel that way." These simple, validating words make her feel emotionally safe. Safety is the key to emotional intimacy. When a woman feels safe, she becomes more open, affectionate, and trusting. When she feels unsafe, she becomes withdrawn or defensive. This is not emotional weakness. It's emotional intelligence. She has learned through experience that vulnerability must be protected. So when she shares her problems, understand that she is taking an emotional risk. She is testing whether you will protect her vulnerability or use it against her. The way you respond determines the depth of your connection. If you dismiss her feelings, she will remember it. If you make her feel heard, she will trust you on a level that few others reach. Women's emotions are waves. They rise, fall, and flow. To connect with her, you must learn to surf those waves with patience, not try to stop them. When she cries or gets frustrated, she's releasing emotional energy. Interrupting her or telling her to calm down shuts that process down. But if you listen, hold space, and stay grounded, her emotions will settle naturally. What she feels afterward is not just relief, but gratitude. Gratitude for being accepted in her emotional truth. Gratitude for not being told to be someone else. Gratitude for being met with understanding rather than resistance. Another layer to this dynamic is that when a woman speaks about her problems, she's not always speaking about the surface issue. Often she's expressing deeper emotions, fear, insecurity, disappointment, or exhaustion. Emotional listening requires that you hear not only her words, but the feelings beneath them. If she says, "You never spend time with me," she may not be accusing you. She may be saying, "I miss feeling close to you." When you respond to the emotion rather than the literal words, you create healing communication. This level of emotional intelligence bridges the gap between misunderstanding and true intimacy. Psychologically, women value emotional reciprocity. She wants to feel that you can also express your own inner world. When you share your feelings in return, you show her that emotions are not a one-way street. You create balance. A woman feels more connected to a man who can express himself calmly and authentically than to one who hides behind emotional walls. Vulnerability, when handled maturely, builds respect. It tells her that you are strong enough to be open and emotionally aware enough to meet her where she is. Listening to a woman's problems is not just about making her feel better. It's about learning her emotional language. Every woman has her own rhythm of expression. Some need space, some need reassurance, some need words, and some need quiet presence. The key is emotional attunement, developing sensitivity to her cues and responding accordingly. When you understand her emotional language, you stop reacting and start connecting. That connection is what makes her feel emotionally safe, valued, and loved. So when a woman tells you her problems, understand what it truly means. It means she trusts you enough to be vulnerable. It means she sees you as someone safe enough to share her unfiltered emotions with. It means she doesn't need a solution. She needs your patience. She doesn't need perfection. She needs your understanding. The strength of any relationship, romantic, familial, or friendship, depends on how deeply you can listen without judgment. Because for a woman, being heard is not a small gesture. It's the greatest form of love and respect she can experience. When you give her that, you don't just understand her, you connect with her soul. When a woman tells you her problems, it is one of the most significant moments of trust she can offer. In that moment, she is not simply venting, she is opening her emotional world to you. She is allowing you to see beyond her surface, beyond her calm smile or confident appearance, into the part of her that feels, worries, and hopes. Female psychology reveals that emotional expression for women is a form of connection, not complaint. When she speaks about her problems, she isn't necessarily seeking solutions. She is seeking understanding. She wants to feel seen, valued, and emotionally safe. That moment is not about what you can fix, but about what you can feel with her. Many people, especially men, misunderstand this emotional language. When a woman begins to talk about her problems, their instinct is to jump in with logic, to give advice, to provide a plan, to show strength through solutions. But for a woman, emotional connection is not built through solving, it's built through listening. She doesn't want you to fix her pain, she wants you to witness it. She wants to feel that her emotions matter, that her inner voice is being heard. When she feels heard, something powerful happens. Her stress begins to calm, her emotions begin to balance and her connection with you begins to deepen. That's the unseen emotional rhythm that defines her communication. Listening to a woman is not a passive act, it's an emotional skill. It means being fully present, not just physically but emotionally. It means setting aside your phone, your distractions, and even your urge to respond. It's about entering her emotional space with patience and empathy. When you truly listen, she feels emotionally safe. And emotional safety is the foundation of feminine openness. A woman will only share her real feelings when she senses that she won't be judged, interrupted, or dismissed. When she feels emotionally safe, her walls fall and her true self emerges. That is when connection becomes genuine. Female psychology emphasizes that emotional connection is built on understanding, not agreement. You don't have to agree with every feeling she expresses. You just need to understand why she feels it. If she says, "I feel ignored," don't argue that you were busy. Understand that her emotional need for closeness feels unmet. If she says, "You don't listen, don't defend yourself," listen deeper. She isn't attacking, she's reaching out. Emotional language often hides a deeper message. And understanding that message requires empathy rather than logic. Women also express emotions to regulate their internal state. Talking helps them release emotional tension. When you let her express herself fully, you are helping her process those emotions in a healthy way. But if you cut her off, correct her, or tell her to calm down, you block that emotional release. Over time, that builds emotional distance. You may think you're helping by giving quick answers, but in truth, you're taking away her space to feel. Listening without fixing is one of the greatest gifts you can give to a woman. It shows emotional maturity, patience, and true strength. It's also important to recognize that when a woman shares her problems, it's not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of emotional intelligence and courage. She is choosing openness over suppression. She is trusting you with her inner world. That is a privilege, not a burden. Many women move through life keeping their emotions guarded because they've learned that people often don't listen. They judge, dismiss, or get uncomfortable. So when she chooses to share, it means she sees you as emotionally safe. Don't break that trust. Respond with compassion, not control. A woman doesn't measure love by how much advice you give. She measures it by how deeply you understand her. When you listen with empathy, you speak her emotional language. You tell her, without words, that her feelings matter, that her voice carries value. This is what builds emotional intimacy, the kind of connection that goes beyond surface attraction or daily conversation. When a woman feels emotionally seen, she becomes more affectionate, more trusting, and more open. Her energy softens and her love deepens. Emotional presence also means listening to what she doesn't say. Sometimes her silence, her sigh, or her tone reveals more than her words. Emotional intelligence involves reading those subtle cues. When she says, "I'm fine," but her tone feels heavy, she's often saying, "I wish you'd ask again." When she says, "Don't worry about it," she might be hoping you care enough to understand anyway. These are not games, they are emotional signals. Responding with patience and curiosity, rather than frustration, builds her trust in you. It's worth remembering that women don't open up to everyone. If she tells you her problems, it's because she feels some level of emotional connection. She believes you will hold her feelings with care. That's why how you respond matters so much. If you make her feel foolish for expressing herself, she will retreat. But if you make her feel understood, she will remember that safety forever. That's the kind of emotional bond that lasts longer than words, longer than promises. A woman's heart thrives in emotional presence. She doesn't want someone perfect. She wants someone who listens. She doesn't expect you to erase her problems. She wants you to walk beside her through them. She doesn't need you to have all the answers. She just needs to know she's not alone in her feelings. When you listen this way, you become more than a partner, friend, or confidant. You become a safe space in a noisy world. The truth is, every woman carries stories within her, stories of pain, hope, fear, and resilience. When she tells you her problems, she's letting you into those stories. She's showing you who she really is beneath her calm exterior. That is a moment of truth, and it deserves your attention. The way you respond will either build a bridge or a wall. Choose to be the listener who builds bridges, who holds space for her without judgment, who listens not to reply, but to understand. Because when a woman tells you her problems, she's not asking you to be her hero, she's inviting you to be her home. And there is no greater gift than being the person with whom she feels safe enough to be her true self.